6:30, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. Adrian, can you hand that to me, please?
Yes.
First, I'll do roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Villalobos here. Councilmember Bunker.
Here.
Councilmember Shell Allen.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember McLeod. Okay, so he's not here. Councilmember Clinton.
Here.
And Mayor Glaze is here. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic,
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing, please, for the pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I
Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. And I will do the invocation. Dear precious Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Lord God, for your provision for our parade this last weekend. And we just are just so grateful that the rain held off and that we were able to conduct the parade with as much grace as was available to us to do. Lord God, we just praise you for that. Heavenly Father, as we go into this meeting, we just ask that you give us discernment on each and every decision that we have to make. We just ask this in your precious Son's name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, and so that brings me to the mayor's public comment. Sorry. So we do have one public comment from Craig Foster.
Thank you very much. This is really addressed to the council because it considering the hotel motel tax. And I just wanted to mention, I know that you're going to be looking at spending money on various things. And I'd like to make a suggestion, if I might, and that is, I think we need to create some sort of strategic plan and a framework for how we go about making decisions on what money to spend. And the reason I have a marketing background. And when I look at the city and kind of what we're trying to do with the hotel motel tax, I kind of think of the city as like a product in a sense, because we are an entity that's trying to get people to come here, right? And to love our beautiful city. But at the moment, it seems like we have lots of ideas of how to spend the money, like a billboard, which I think is great, or even an event, which I think is great. All these things are great. But I think we need to look, every time we're faced with a decision to, should we spend this or do that, we need to kind of run it through a filter of, does it meet our objectives? Is this money, and what's the opportunity cost? If we spend X on this, then we're not gonna be able to spend X on that. And so just like marketing a product, if you think about, say Coca-Cola or something like that, you have to understand, who your target market is, where they are, and how you're going to reach them in order to maybe bring them here or do whatever. So I think it's really important for us to define what it is we want people to do in the first place. Do we want more people to just know about Martindale? Do we want people to come down and go shopping at the grocery store or go to the cafe? Do we want people to tube our rivers? On and on and on. What's the most important thing? What are we trying to do? And how are we going to go do that? And if we have a preset kind of strategic plan in place, then every time something comes up, then you can refer to that and say, well, remember, this is what we're trying to do. Does this sort of check the boxes? Does it enable us to kind of move us forward to meet whatever goal that is? Instead of just doing it piecemeal, like, oh, let's do this thing over here, and let's do this thing over here. Maybe make it more long-term to meet our objectives. And that's what I would like to propose. And I'm happy to lead that effort. If we want to have like a workshop or something like that, I can put together kind of a straw man or a framework of how we could approach it. It can be just a one-sheet thing that says, over the course of the next 10 years, we'd love to see Martindale, be like X. And we'd like I said, if it's more people, maybe it's, certain types, not certain types, but it's like, the vacation crowd or the Airbnb crowd or the, whatever we're trying to do, we need to define what that is so we're not wasting money.
Yeah.
So that's what my suggestion would be. So reach out to me later if you want to have like a little session. I can help put together a framework.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And I don't believe we have any other comments. So we'll go ahead and move into the mayor's report. So I think everybody was pleased with the parade. And what I have to say is I'm so grateful to the council and to Jared and the police department. I tell you, we didn't really have any volunteers. That's the little secret behind this. I talked to a lot of people and got a couple of commitments, but then in the end, they didn't show up. And so what came off was Lisa Allen jumped in there and took care of the food booths and stuff across the street, and Sonia helped her. And then Jan came down and helped at the start out to get all of the little pieces of paper back to the announcer so that he could announce who was in the parade. And we had marked the parade route as best as we could. Even put a few signs out on the highway to try and direct people. Tommy Fudge jumped in there and he put the barricades out. And he also did the parking that was up at next to the post office. And so I'm just really grateful to the whole council for helping so much. And
Rob and Jared helped us. Getting everybody lined up and ready for parade too.
yeah, Bob Purcell and my husband. And so it really went off very well. And I'm very grateful to all of you. So.
Thank you. I think it was very good for
It was a good year. It was, I kept it low key for two reasons, and I had lengthened the route because of COVID. There were some concerns that it would be a super spreader event. So I tried to make it longer so that people would spread out, and they did spread out. If you were in the parade and you went around, you could see that there were people on the other streets also. So that was really good. Okay, we're ready to go into the administrator's report. And he has passed out a big packet for us.
Well, hopefully it's not that big of a packet. It's only a couple slides, but I did want to inform council on the latest on our grants and some of our purchasing updates. So the first one, I want to provide an update on the hazard mitigation grant. This is the one that's targeted for Northwest River Road and the flooding issues that we have there. The $6.7 million grant we received. Currently, the Texas General Land Office, GLO, is developing their contracts with cities for the terms of the grant. That includes performance measures, schedules, budgeting, and other information that the city submitted in their application. GLO hopes to have those contracts finalized with the awardees, the cities, within the next few months. So here in the next few weeks, we'll probably start getting some communication from them on the drafts of those performance measures and schedules. In advance of that, we're working with our grant administrator to prepare documentation that might be required or will be required. Now, this is going to be a lengthy process. We're probably 2 years away, 24 months out from breaking ground on that project. That's mainly due to the GLO contracting timelines, which has been slow to date, and I expect it to continue to be so. The environmental reviews are going to be quite lengthy because our project is near a cemetery, and there'll have to be special environmental considerations taken into account for that. There'll also be some minor land acquisition, and there'll be plenty of opportunity for public engagements and as we go through that process. And so we're probably 2 years from breaking ground. I do want to highlight a potential issue, and we'll probably discuss this in the coming months after the budget season. Something to be cognizant of as we go through the budget later tonight, though, is the procurement process under the grant is the city pays the invoice to the vendor for services or construction rendered. And then we request reimbursement through that contract to GLO. The money flows down from there. So that the issue is when we're looking at $6.7 million in construction costs and engineering costs and other assessments, all those bills are going to come due to the city first. And we'll have to be able to pay them and then go back and ask for reimbursement later. We have as many of you know, we have very limited cash on hand. The total cost of this project, if it goes for, over 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years before, beginning to end, that's still an average of, close to $2 million, somewhere around $2 million a year. Our annual general fund budget is barely 600,000. So our ability to pay those invoices as they come due, especially during the construction phase, is going to be quite difficult. And so we're going to be looking at options on how we might be able to pay for those invoices when they come due. And while we wait for reimbursement from the GLO, this could include certificates of obligation or coming to some sort of line of credit type terms or with our bank or what have you. So we'll just want to make you aware that will be a discussion that we will need to have as this goes forward. And want to make you aware that we're going to be working to identify those options and present to council in the future.
Are we going to do that today?
No.
Okay. Because I
So
thought a lot of that from the grant came out of that text pool account.
Right. So we intend to, and we'll get into it more in the budget tonight. But we intend to continue to use our long-term capital improvement fund to pay for the city's matching portion required under that grant, which is 1%. So we need to be able to pay about $67,000 that we won't get reimbursed for. However, when they're putting in the culverts, paving the road, and we start getting bills for, hundreds of thousands of dollars each, then the city will have to be able to pay that invoice and then go back to GLO and request reimbursement under that contract. And so that's the issue, is that limited cash on hand. And so we're going to have to find ways to cover that. It might be a negotiating point as we get into the contract. Maybe there's special terms that they allow for small cities, or we'll have to look at some sort of financing, which would carry additional charges to the city, which would hope to prevent in all cases, because any interest that we charge the city for that financing would be the city's bill to pay. So it increases the cost from 67,000 on up. Hopefully what we'll be able to do is get like a 0% interest line of credit or some other similar sort of arrangement with our bank or some other organization that would help us manage this grant. I'm sure we're not the only city facing these issues, and we'll likely have an opportunity to talk with our GLO counterparts and grant administrator in the weeks and months ahead on how we might be able to address it. We're probably a year out from really facing that burden, but we're going to need to do some serious planning on how to address it over the next 6 months or so. Any other questions on the hazard mitigation grant?
No, that's fine.
Moving on. Another grant that we presented to City Council previously is the Department of Justice COPS hiring program. That grant application was submitted on June 22nd. With that application, we received letters of support from Congressman Lloyd Dockett. Special thanks to Carlton Carl for facilitating that support. And then we also received a letter of support from Mayor Glaze. Now, the city council will have an opportunity to review and approve or deny that grant contract after the award announcement without penalty. So I called the grant office and asked them, if we're scrambling to get the grant submission in. If we get it in and get it awarded, and upon further review, we want to decline, is there any penalty in us doing so? And they said no. So with that, went ahead and submitted what we had. And so when the awards announcements are made, and if the city is awarded that grant opportunity, the city council will have an opportunity to review that contract and approve or deny. The grant covers a 3-year period, and it's going to be difficult for that to line up specifically with the fiscal years. So we're looking at our way forward and what it's going to cost us to bring this person on, and the matching contributions spread over those 3 years of period of performance, spread over 4 fiscal years, will look something like this, depending on the start date of that position or that contract, how those terms are handled. So in the first year, the costs are pretty small and exceed from there as the years go forward. And as you see, in the fiscal year 2025, that matching portion of $16,000 in that lower bottom row is only for a portion of that year. The actual cost of the city for that position will be higher than that, but it won't be the full cost of the officer, which would be around $60,000. So, any questions on the cost grant? All right. Another grant-related item is American Recovery Plan Act, ARPA. This is a fund through the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. This slide turns in a little bit of acronym soup. But the basic point is that the Texas Division of Emergency Management, TDEM, has been identified as the state agency that's going to coordinate these funds being distributed to local governments with populations under 50,000 or 50,000 people generally. So that announcement was made on July 1st, and TDEM will be conducting training and orientation sessions every business day of the rest of the month. So we intend to hopefully attend one of those. The initial filing deadline for our portion, or to make a claim for our portion, is August 2nd. That initial deadline includes terms and conditions, insurances, budgetary expenditure certifications, and other forms that are going to be required. We learned of this over the holidays, and we're still figuring out what's needed. But if there's a need for city council action on any of those items, we'll intend to include that on the next regular scheduled city council meeting. And we should know whether that's going to be needed or not. This, if you recall, was the money of roughly $270,000, give or take a few thousand, that come to the city with some specific restraints. They're not too restrictive, but there are some restraints on what that money can be used. Any questions on that one?
Jared, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Villalobos. I wanted to ask you for this grant, who is going to be the person that is taking charge of this? Is it going to be the grants committee, or is it going to be you, or who's doing this?
So this one, luckily, is structured as an entitlement. So every city gets it. You don't really have to apply for it. It's not competitively awarded or anything. We just have to agree to the contract to receive those funds. So there's really nothing for the grant committee, as has been discussed, to do on this one. The greatest burden likely will fall on Dwayne, frankly. with any expenditure reporting requirements under the terms of those funds.
Thank you.
All right. And lastly, I want to give you an update on the police vehicle. So that the vehicle is ready for pickup at the outfitter in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. While we were going through the review of the lease purchase agreement, we identified an error. And it's tied to the different costs associated with this purchase. So the police vehicle cost is less than $50,000, which in the Texas local government code is a threshold for specific solicitation requirements, public notice requirements for contracts. The lease purchase agreement, however, because of the financing charges, is greater than that $50,000 mark. And so when we were looking to finalize those contracts, or the contract specifically for the lease purchase agreement, we noticed that we made an error, because even though the vehicle is less than that threshold amount, the total value of that lease purchase agreement falls within that statutory requirement. We need to redo that solicitation just for the lease purchase agreement portion of this activity. So that gives us with two course of action. Either we can pay for the vehicle in cash with the fiscal year 21 budget surplus that resulted from the coronavirus relief fund. That's that $55,000 that we received in reimbursement for personnel, law enforcement personnel costs. We can take that surplus and pay for the police vehicle in cash and not do the lease purchase agreement, or we recompete the lease purchase agreement. Given the timelines involved, we're going to go ahead and move forward and recompete that lease purchase agreement. And then once we have those quotes returned, that will require city council action. And at that time, we can discuss whether we want to use those surplus funds on this police vehicle or other uses, such as the Lockhart Street repair. I want to give you an update on where we're at with this, because it's been in process for the last 6 months, 7 months. Any questions on this?
Does that include the 12,000 we have held back for that purchase?
Yeah, so the $12,000 was structured. We were going to use it as the initial monthly payment on the lease purchase agreement.
Okay.
I have a question. This is Sonia. I wanted to ask, since you said that it's ready for pickup, that's making me think that everything is mounted, it's ready to go, it just needs to be picked up. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yep, the
Okay.
decals are on it, light bars are in, all the other equipment that's required is installed and ready to use.
So I thought the equipment that we had here, there was already equipment that was here. Was Martindale's equipment mounted on that vehicle?
Yes, we shipped it to them.
And so the contract that we signed to initiate doing this purchase, this lease, that's not binding?
So we have a contract with the upfitter, and that's still binding for the vehicle itself. There's the other contract that was going to provide us the financing under a lease purchase agreement. That was not in compliance with the procurement laws under local government code. And so nothing affects the police vehicle itself. It's that lease purchase agreement portion that we did not feel comfortable with proceeding with, and recognized the need to resolicit the contract. for example, we're not contracting with Frost Bank, our lease purchase, our current lease purchase institute to provide the vehicle. We were just going with them to give us the financing terms. Kind of like if you or I were to go purchase a car, you don't necessarily have to use the dealership's financing terms. You can go to your own bank and purchase a vehicle through a bank loan separate from the dealership. That's kind of what's
I
happening.
understand. Thank you.
All right, that's the last slide I had. Unless there's any other questions, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Okay. We're ready for the financial report. Dwayne?
He's on there.
Okay, folks, the regular financial report we see each month. See our bank statement balances as of close of business today. 4,000 in the general fund, just a little bit in the street and road fund. Work restricted, you see it 10,238. Police restricted over 2,800. Utility fund, utility deposit fund, and the community development fund totaling $167,000. I have, I'll show you an accounting shortly, where I would propose we roll that community development fund into our PFIA fund that you see down below. Emergency fund stands at $222,000. Then the Public Funds Investment Act, broken up on various line items you see there. Interest, operation overflow, hotel tax, job safety fees, utility deposits total $211,000. I propose we move that community development fund money into the general fund to overflow as we make decisions for that money. Any questions on the bank balances? Other, you see the fines, be the state 344,000. And the, I guess the long-term capital fund that includes the $12,000 for the patrol car that Ms. Bunker mentioned earlier, as well as $132,000 for other capital projects. Okay, with that, we can look at the budget versus actual report for the general fund. And this fund has a bit of a new look this month. You may recall back when we did the budget last year, Jared set up a new framework where funds that are reserved specifically for other uses are put into a different report, and we'll look at that later. So now you see our income line items on this report are strictly for the operation of the city. And so there are fewer revenue line items there. You see we're at $497,689 through June. June is 3/4 the way through the year. At 3/4 the way through the year, we brought in 91% of the revenue, with almost all of the property tax revenue. The next section, personnel. I want to call attention. You see the percentages over there on the right are all within tolerance there, but there's a new line item there. See that line 6,000 personnel other, that big negative $48,000? That is money that came from the coronavirus relief fund. In the end, we were able to submit basically all of the cost of our police force during the coronavirus grant period, and that is where I put that money, just as an offset to payroll. Sure where else we would put it, but I'll continue to bounce that around in the months ahead as we move toward the fiscal year end. Some other items that were adjusted with that money, I'll be in the regular operating expenses. It would be down in the next section, contracted fees and services, adjusted janitorial. You all remember that one was running way over budget because of the extra claims we had. About $4,000 offset that number. And then also in IT upgrade and maintenance, there are several $1,000s that was netted against that number too, for this equipment that we're using here in this room. That was paid for by that grant. Otherwise, any questions on any of those line items? So you see, we brought in $140,000 more than we've spent thus far today. You can see the next column. The plan is to break even by the end of the year. And it looks like we won't have trouble doing that. So that's good news.
Break even on the net income?
Yes. 140,000. Okay, the next would be accounts payable for the general fund. Checks that we've written. Scroll through those, see if you've got any questions.
For the Austin tree doctor, which tree did they take care of?
That,
That's the mowing out at that farm.
The mowing,
that's in
okay.
the general fund. I mean, the utility fund. Let me look at that.
That one for the one in the park?
No, the Austin tree
No.
doctor.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly which tree that is. That's a small bill, a single tree something.
It
Oh.
wasn't in the park though.
I think the one in the park was more expensive.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, that's the
Oh, I see the
$200. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't recall. Well, heard about it.
Doctor.
Line curve, brush removal, burn piles of treatment plant.
And then what is the Blades group?
That's a group that we bought some pothole repair material from. That's a new vendor.
Gotcha.
And what about DeWitt, Pop and Son?
That's office supply vendor.
Oh, okay.
Started using them a little more.
Yeah.
But we yeah, we did them before, but
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Hey, Mike, can you mute your phone? There's some vibration, reverb.
Okay. All right.
All right, thanks.
All right, the next report would be utility fund. Budget report. And you see the revenue at $235,800. That's 76% of the budget for the year. So that number is on track. Then you go down and look at total expenses. We're at 72%. Therefore, we've got a income in excess of expenses just under 17,000. So utility fund appears to be in good order. The next would be the payments from the utility fund. largest expenses are obviously for solid waste and to reimburse the general fund for payroll and various other overhead.
What about this administration overhead expense, $34,000?
I think it's, I think we've got a number that big on here.
Profit and loss? Are you on the
Okay, so you're
profit?
back over to the previous report.
Profit and loss budget versus actual? All right, have you gotten there yet?
Yeah, we've
You've gone past it already?
gone past a little, but, all right.
They're the administration overhead expense.
So the revenue that comes into the utility fund, part of the expense is the overhead of this building, the software they use, my time, Jared's time, just city staff, and that's a simple calculation of 15% of overhead, of revenue each month is charged to the utility fund and put directly over into the general fund. And then the next line, you see the payroll overhead. That's for direct payroll for the folks that sit at the front desk.
But then it would be two expenses. It would be the 34 and the 17. Those were both
Correct.
actual expenses.
Yes.
Okay. Seems like a lot for a quarter, but I don't know.
Well, that's 3/4 of the year.
Oh, no, it's 6 months.
9 months.
9 months. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, then that sounds better.
So there's about 16,000 left to spend for the year 17.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question while we're on that page. So on 8050 for the hardship write-offs, and Jared, you're on there. It was brought to my attention that there was a citizen that needed assistance, but was referred to a nonprofit to take care of the balance rather than using the hardship write-off. If someone comes in and needs that, is that generally what's done?
No, I believe what happened in that case, and Sylvia, go ahead and correct me if I get this wrong, but my understanding of that event was they faced a shut off, but there is a nonprofit in town that supports certain types of individuals, and they learned of this hardship and they elected to cover it out of their program. So I don't believe the city was involved in a referral or lobbying on the behalf of the customer to obtain those funds from that nonprofit.
Okay, so if there was no lobbying on behalf of the city for the nonprofit, rather than the city advocating, or taking care of the hardship. It was a customer that,
Yeah, not from my perspective.
okay, thank you.
I can tell you the utility clerks have been working extra hard to clean up the records. They've been going back and going through all of them and finding little discrepancies and getting them fixed.
Okay, the next report, if this is okay, would be the special revenue report. This is the new one I mentioned. Community development. Looking for the special revenue, Jared.
All right, just give me a second. See that. Was that part of the zip file that was sent out earlier?
Yeah, should have been.
Special revenue report, profit and loss, budget versus actual.
Yeah, I didn't see it in our.
Okay. All right, well, if y'all look at your hard copy that you have there, you see the special revenue fund now includes the street and road fund, the hotel tax fund, the court restricted fund, and the Laos fund, which is law enforcement training fund. And looks like I still have a little work to do because I know that we've gotten this law enforcement money. So I need to get that over into this report, and we have spent a little of it as well. But kind of the only expense that we have so far out of this fund is street and road repairs. We spent $18,600. And I wasn't real clear on how to divide it up. So what I did was I put like the big bills to Texas Patcher, the more expensive bills to this fund, and I left the little pothole repairs that Tommy does over in the operating fund. But there's money in both budgets for this. So anyway, so it looks like we've overspent this fund, but until I get a little more guidance, that's kind of how that's fallen. So at this point, you see that net ordinary income, $12,000. We've brought in more in this fund than we've expended to date. That $27,000 transfer in, that's the money that was in these accounts to begin with at the beginning of the year. So,
And then the guidance, you're gonna get it from,
I'll have to talk to Jared and see what he intended in the budget process on how to split those up. And then the next slide is our report is the Community Development Fund. And that is the Coronavirus Relief Fund. We received $69,575. And I went through my accounting of it today, and I could account for $69,486. So we got about $89 left that we have not expended in that fund. And so I got the letter just this last week that grant is officially closed down. Our file is done on that grant. So
we've already spent all that money except for the
no,
$89?
I wouldn't say we've spent it. Earlier I mentioned that we had on the front page the community development $55,759. Yeah, I mean.
And that you want to move.
There's about $48,000 that they gave us on law enforcement, in addition to what we actually spent for Barry being out with COVID or, things that we could specifically. But they had a broad on smaller cities. They had a broader definition and allowed us to put the entire police force against that. So that allowed us to just claim our full due on that. And I guess that's it. I don't have accounts payable. Those payments have already run through the general fund to date. So that is what I have for financial report. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Look forward to the new budget for the new year. Hopefully
Thank
we'll
you.
start with a surplus as we have the past couple of years.
Thank you, Dwayne. Okay, that brings us to the police report.
Okay. You all have a very lengthy blotter. I'll be happy to answer questions. There's two thank yous I do want to say. Jared was involved with one. I want to thank Sylvia for loaning me Adrian. On that blotter, you'll see Adrian and I had 2 full days with Jared Zooming, doing this Cox grant stuff. So Adrian, thank you for your help. Sylvia, thank you for covering for him to loan him to me.
And thank you also for the mayor because she also helped cover.
Yes, absolutely.
I answered the phone and said, wait.
As y'all know, y'all saw us out this weekend was not fun for us with the fireworks. It was terrible. And most of it, I think everybody in the county has figured out it's fun to aim and shoot their fireworks over the top of the city.
At each other.
We had some just going off right over the top coming from the other side of the river.
What was the building search at Bowie and Lockhart, that
Wow.
house that's sitting there? And then one day, I think when we were looking for that guy that did some,
We
one-
found an unsecured door.
oh, okay.
And it's, so anytime something looked amiss while we were doing it, we searched every abandoned building, structure, garage, 1979 bridge, anywhere. Every day, that's how it was.
Okay.
Excuse me, I also want to acknowledge Dwayne here because he also helped me a lot this 2 days.
Did I?
Yes, he did.
Thank you, Mr. Delay.
One helps every day.
I just chase money.
Did you ever find out what, where the shots came from at the water treatment plant?
We know it's, the property, nobody is living there, and somebody was in the back shooting. So we made contact with one person, and I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses, and whatever's in there has got my eyes funky. We made contact with somebody that was mowing grass out there, and just basically said, hey, you can't shoot out here. Anybody that comes out here can't shoot out here. And this isn't the first time something like that's happened. The last time we found some holes, probably about 15 foot up on the wall, and we figured out that those shots were coming from hunters across Highway 80 that were hunting hogs.
Okay, are there any other questions on the police blotter? Okay, we'll move on to the court report. Judge Fusco, are you online? Judge
I might have to
Fusco?
unmute him real quick.
No, yeah, you just did. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everybody. You've got your report in front of you. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions if I can.
I have a question, Sam Clinton. I know Jan has asked you in the past about when court cases will start, or I know you've had some failure to pay and then it ended up resulting in warrants for, say, traffic fines and all that. When do you expect the court to get back in real session?
The court has been in real session. We're back. We're having people in the courthouse. We've had in the court area. We've had the pretrial scheduled. We're back in session for all intents and purposes, and have been for some time.
A couple of months? Okay.
Yeah, that's accurate. Well, everything that we've done the last year and a half has been after, the Office of Court Administration and the Texas Supreme Court were issuing, orders, Jesus, I don't even know the last one. I think they were up to like 30 in the 30s. So we were relying, as was every other court, on, guidance from the OCA and the Texas Supreme Court. So yeah, everybody wasn't just doing it on their own. We were very strict guidance. But yes, no, we're open, and we're going to stay that way. Knock on wood.
I have a question, this is Jan.
Sure.
Most of the fines collected, are those just from traffic violations?
Yes, that's correct.
Any other questions? Thank you, Judge.
You're very welcome. Thank y'all. You have a good evening.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, consent items, accounts payable, and we have the minutes, if you've had time to read those in the packet. Do I have a motion to,
I make a motion to approve the accounts payable and minutes for June 15, 2021.
A second.
And Lisa Shaw Allen will second.
we already had a second. Sonia had seconded.
Great.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Lisa? Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, and the motion carries. Okay, we're going to go on to 6, discussion and action items. I took on this next part thinking this would be easier to do and quick. The Historic Preservation Commission, we're going to table that because I have some more investigating to do. And Mayor Devaney was going to look into doing an ordinance. And so I still have more investigation to do with where he was at in the process of doing an ordinance that would try and put all of the commissions on the same schedule. So I'll be working on that this next couple of weeks. So we'll move on to the parks.
Can I have discussion
Yes.
on that? So even if the members were appointed, if some of them are coming off, how would that differ if the ordinance comes to fruition?
Well, it wouldn't necessarily, except for, this is kind of tied up with the Historic Commission when they were appointed in 2017. Some of them did a 3-year term and then they re-upped for a 2-year term. And so on the website, it said that there were 3 members that were expiring in 21 now, but that's not true. They expire in 22, which right now it looks like all 5 members expire in 2022. So I have to do some investigation to figure out who's expiring when, because I'm really confused about it. And I have to work with Craig a little bit more because I'm not clear on who needs to be reappointed. Right now, it looks like none of them on the Historic Commission need to be reappointed. So I just have to get that one straightened out. Plus, work on the ordinance. So it's actually 2 separate items.
Gotcha.
Okay, but on the parks, they have 2 openings. And so we have Susan with us tonight. Did you want to say anything about that? Her application is in the packet, and along with Alexandra Walker. And once we approve them, then they will have 5 members on the board of the parks. Right now, there's Richard Salmon, Jeff Latimer, and Angela Jimenez.
And me.
Well, then that would be,
Well, I mean, when we get the 2 others, then I would not be in the board anymore.
you'll
Once we-
just be the liaison.
Yeah.
But they gotta
Gotta-
elect a chairman.
Right.
Okay, does anybody know if Alexandria lives in the city or in the ETJ?
She actually lives in Lockhart, and she is part of the Dig America. And they've been working with the library on library programs, and they've planted wildflowers and stuff in the park.
I have some more information on her, but on Susan, I can just read briefly in her application. I have experience in reading and interpreting statutes and ordinance. I have a personal interest in protecting, preserving, and improving community parks for the benefit of the residents of Martindale, especially as the city grows. So I would like to recommend Susan to be on the board of the Parks Advisory Committee.
I second.
Thank you.
That was just a recommendation. I don't know.
No.
Oh.
Okay, I would then like to change my recommendation to a motion. I would like a motion that we accept Susan Schoen to be on the Parks Advisory Committee for a tenure of how much time?
2 years.
Starting
Now.
now. And I just made a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
And Sonia seconds. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept Susan Swoon's application as a volunteer for the Parks Department, which we really appreciate. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Lisa,
Aye.
thank
Aye.
you. Mike, but can he talk? Or is he just listening?
We had to, mute
Try it
it because
again.
there was too much vibration.
Okay. Okay,
I would like to go ahead and make a motion to appoint Alexandria Walker from Dig Together to the Parks, term ending June 2023.
I second.
And I have a slight discussion about that. I spoke with her and she is a master gardener. She is also a part of the Texan Urban Forestry and the National Forestry Association. So she's involved in gardens, trees, and water issues. She's also a facility and a trainer for what's called Project Learning Tree. She has a certificate in environmental and informational education. She also is familiar with riparian barrier structures, and she's also a part of the Urban Tree Program and is a volunteer coordinator. So I appreciate Sonia's motion. I think Alexandra will be a good asset for us in the Parks Advisory Committee, and that she is a very well-known, and the volunteer coordination that she's done for us so far, planting wildflower seeds in the park. Also, she headed the Tales of Tales thing that was at the library. So I think she will be a great asset, and I appreciate the motion to fill out the board. And so I'll second the motion.
well,
Or she already did.
okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay, everyone who would like to approve Alexandra onto the Parks Board, please say aye.
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 Lisa, thank you.
Aye.
I wanted to say one more thing about the parks. They did meet last Tuesday and they are going to meet next Tuesday. And Adrian has been hired for a third day to work with the Parks Department. And do you want to say anything about that? What your role is going to be?
Sure. So I am assistant city clerk, but I was hired on June 1st to manage the master plan for the parks for the city of Martindale. And well, I'm just looking forward to working with the Parks Committee, and so far it's been promising. And so if you have any opinions or statements you'd like to mention to me, go ahead. I'm all ears.
And you're available on Wednesdays, you said, is
Yes.
when you work on those types of things.
At the beginning of the month, if any of these committees have had meetings, it would be a good idea for them to have an opportunity to give a report of
Yes.
what their meetings were about to the city and public.
That would be really nice. That
Yeah.
would be good.
So
So we
next time, I
know.
think we need to include that and see if there's, if there's been any meetings, at least they have an opportunity.
To
to
tell us
talk.
what they're doing.
Yes.
And-
So they don't necessarily have to have a report if they don't have one, the committees, but we used to put the river, and we could just put committee reports. And
Well,
if there
and
is
sometimes we balance them out because like here we have the mayor's report, administrator and all these reports.
any-
But then in 2 weeks, we won't have those same reports.
Oh,
We'll go on into business. Okay, and that brings us to the River Commission.
Oh, wait, can I say
Oh,
one last thing about
sure.
that? I know when the previous mayor was here that there was discussion about these committees submitting reports, say in October of this
The
year.
annual
The
report.
annual reports in October, and there was discussion about that we were attempting to change those reports to be submitted in July, which would give us good time to set parameters or things that we would like to see done in the next fiscal year. And then that would give a report before the
Yeah,
fiscal
for the
year is
fiscal.
over to where we can say in July that next year we want to spend this amount on that or this amount on that. So I think we would be discussing that pretty soon because I would like to give a report in July. Well, it'll be, yes, mid-July, we're gonna meet again. So I think that's a very good thing to do for these commissions to submit reports before the fiscal year ends.
And that's kind of what I was talking about. He had started working on an ordinance or
Oh,
something like that.
okay.
So I just need to look into it and go talk to him too. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the River Commission. Reluctantly, Joy Youngers and Steve Fonville and Charlie Olds, they need to be reappointed to the River Committee. There's 3 other members, so there's a total of 6 members on the River Commission. And I don't have the other 3 names in front of me.
but you don't know whether or not they need to be,
No,
their terms aren't up.
their term, they are staggered, so you're only doing
Oh,
half
okay.
of the committee at a time. But Joy Younger, Steve Fonville, and Charlie Olds, their terms had actually expired in January of this year. So they've been working, they have been trying to find replacements, but they have agreed to continue until they could find replacements. But officially, we need to just go ahead and reappoint them so that,
I'll make a motion to reappoint Joy Jungers, Steve Fonville, and Charlie Olds with a term ending January 23rd for the Martindale San Marcos River Commission.
okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Actually, it's January 2023.
Three.
January 2023.
I second.
I'll second it. That's all right. That's all right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Everyone who approves, please say aye.
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 Sam?
Oh, aye, yes. Thank you. I was looking for something.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item B. In your packet, there's this email we had gotten from the Hill Country Cook-Off Association. And they are asking for $1,500 from the hotel motel tax. And they did do that 2 years ago, and it was highly successful. And so Jared and I thought that this would be a good thing to put on the agenda to talk about, to see if we want to support this.
And this is to help them put on the event in order for them to raise money for breast cancer, correct?
Yes.
We have a Miss
And how-
Lucille in
and
the
how-
audience.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yes, we did have it 2 years ago. We had started it, got the event together, and the only reason why we're asking for the 1,500 this year is because when we did it, we were expecting 10 to 15. It is the only all-female cook-off in the state of Texas, which
Oh.
cook-offs is getting like really huge. So last year with us putting it together in the 3 weeks that we did, Highway 80 donated the location for us without a fee. With us only thinking 10 to 15 teams, we ended up with 30 teams last year. So they were bombarded with staff and so forth. So he did ask for us, to pay a little bit towards, out of 1,500 will go to Highway 80 to help with the manpower of how much business we brought into the restaurant, to the convenience store, to Dollar General, running out of ice, the local little shops. And we're wanting to make one of our requirements this year is that they have to get produce from the grocery store here also. We are expecting 50. We're hoping to get 50 teams. I'm more than sure if I can get more. And so that's kind of what the 1,500 is to help pay for the venue. And then what we do on Friday nights is that we do have a ceremony of balloon release, and we give each team a bag. And you'll be surprised how many teams are actually cooking in memory of someone or for someone fighting. So we do have a little service and that sort of thing, to a cake for those that are fighting, for those that we have lost, and for those that are surviving. Personally, my wife has a survivor, so I definitely know how the struggle is. What I am looking for this year, and what I'm going to start researching for, is to find somebody locally that we can actually do a presentation of a check to, instead of just going straight to the Susan G. Foundation. That's what we've done in the past. I would like to do somebody local that within the area that, would benefit from us also. Thank you all for your time. Any other questions?
No, I think it's a great cause.
Thank you.
But I do have a question discussion for the council.
Yeah.
I think this would be a great cause. I'd like to double check that we can take it from the hotel motel tax. I don't see why that wouldn't be a problem, since it is bringing in people, but.
It's a 2-day event.
Oh, it is? Okay.
It's the 29th and 30th.
Okay.
And they would
Yeah, I missed
encourage
that.
people to stay in the area as much as possible.
This kind of goes against what Craig was suggesting. We don't really have a real long-term plan yet, but.
No, we're just getting started.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Trying to decide. Yes. Lisa.
Yes, Lisa?
In the bottom, the last paragraph on the letter on the first page, that states we would like to approach the city to consider HCCO to use some of the funds allocated to tourism in the amount of $1,500 to offset some of the costs. These funds would be allocated to Highway 80 Feed Barn for the venue, entertainment, and permits that will be incurred with such an event. So that's I read that specifically so that others who don't have a copy of this letter would know exactly what I'm talking about. So the venue being Highway 80 Feed Barn, obviously they have a fee for anyone using their venue for such type of event. I would like to know what entertainment means. Does that mean they're going to have bands? And so this money would go to pay for those bands. And then lastly, the last expense stated is permits. So we as a city have the ability to waive any permitting fee. I'm assuming that means a city permit. I wanted clarification on that. Does anybody know?
Yes, there's a lady here. She can talk.
Yes, ma'am, that'd be whatever city fees that we have to hold. I know with COVID and so forth, I don't know, there's certain regulations or so forth that we have to maintain, so we want to make sure that we have that covered. Most of it's going to go to Highway 80 because of the cost of rental. And then the live music we're doing is on Friday. We like to have somebody with whatever funds we have left over, which is about 200 after we pay Highway 80. Get somebody to pay acoustic music as we do the balloon release and part of that ceremony presentation.
So some of that would go to the music too.
Yes.
I thought you said also you have some staff that you need to pay.
Yes, we have to pay staff because we're also going to have to bring in porta potties for the amount of people, so that way we don't overload Highway 80 with everybody
Right.
going in just to use the restroom. So we will have porta potties set up, and we're also going to get big dumpsters put out there so we can throw the trash and it gets hauled away and not just piled up and left. We want to leave it as clean as we found it.
Mm-hmm. And what is the date of the event? You may have already said it. Oh, it's in October. I see now.
29 and 30.
29th and 30th.
I wanna, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
wanted to tell Michelle Allen, it's queuing for the boobies.
Yeah.
It's around Halloween
Oh, I see.
with the
Excellent.
emphasis on the
Okay.
boo.
Yeah.
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Where
Thank
did
you
the
for that
participants,
clarification.
where did the participants in the barbecue, majority of them come from? Central Texas or?
Surrounding areas, last year we actually had 2 people, one from Colorado and one from Oklahoma. Because it is televised and it is the only all-women's cook-off. And so this is something we want to continue to grow. And I personally like Martindale, sorry, but my mom's side of the family was born and raised here and I have families here. So with the meaning behind the breast cancer awareness and it being home, family oriented, I just feel like it's just the perfect, it's in between the 2 big barbecue capitals of the world.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let's get Martindale on the map. So that's kind of where we started with it.
I do have another question and possibly statement. So to my understanding, the hotel tax is reserved or restricted to be used for, yes, tourism, but that also means promoting, advertising for. So my question would be, in your advertising for this event, will there be something included, be it a flyer or a web page or a Facebook page or whatever ways that you do it, that will give maybe a list of B&Bs, a list of restaurants, a list of, how exactly will your promoting of the event also promote Martindale other than it being the location site?
It'll have it in bold letters on our flyer once we get the approval that it would be sponsored by City of Martindale. So every flyer and poster that's hung up, along with the registrations, we're gonna get a list of the local Airbnbs and put that on our handout to each cook. So they want to get within the local, plus their trophies will stay sponsored by City of Martindale.
Okay.
And we officially will be sponsored if we have to give them a little bit of a help.
I mean, I certainly agree. I certainly agree to waive permits and any other expense that would fall in that category. I would like to hear from the other council members your thoughts in regards to paying for the venue and bands.
Okay, our attorney wants to weigh in.
So if you look at section 351-101 of the tax code, that's what deals with use of hotel tax revenue. What it requires is that the revenue be used only, and I think that's an important word, to one, promote tourism, and, which is important, the convention and hotel industry. And then what they do is they provide a listing of 9 potential uses that this thing could fall under. I was looking for some cases on this, but they're not pulling up. But there's generally what's called a 2-part test on this. And the example that you'll often see is with the city taking part in promoting a fireworks show, meet the test of not only promoting tourism, but also promoting the hotel industry. I think the lingo that they use is it designed to put heads in beds. And so the city cannot look at this simply through the lens of saying, is it likely to promote people to come to the city?
Right.
That's not enough. It must cause people to come to the city, and it must also promote people to stay here. So whenever we spend something that's designed to promote tourism, and that's why Jared, I think, so appropriately at the last meeting did the play and stay.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do have various VRBOs, Airbnbs, all of it throughout the city. Will the city's expenditure, if it decides to do this, promote both of those things? And if it will not, then it's not a proper expenditure of this type of revenue. We believe it will, then it is.
Well, think the fact
Thank you
that
for all
they're,
of that explanation.
yeah, I think the fact that they're gonna list Airbnbs or at least put a link to an Airbnb / Martindale or however it's, something, I think that would be fine.
Yeah, there is no bright line test on this. I mean, there's, there is no standard, you must do X, but all I'm, this isn't like walking into the buzzsaw procurement laws or anything of that sort. Very important to be careful in spending public money, tourism and hotel.
Yeah.
Both of those standards must be met, and if they're not, then that's where there's a problem.
I think this meets both of those.
Oh, I was gonna say, one of in our packet to our cooks is that they can check in on Thursday and then they have to be checked out by Sunday by 10. So it's actually a couple more nights. The event is actually Friday and Saturday for cooking. But by the time we get done with it and you gotta get set up, so we do it Thursday to Sunday.
Yeah.
That,
So a lot of the participants may even stay longer.
Yes, ma'am.
But
And then
I did, a lot of the people that come to the event may be staying too.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, and
Very
then
robust.
Thursday, I think they have karaoke at the
Oh, that's
Martindale
right.
River Cafe.
On Thursday night and at the Bee Barn and the
Uh-huh.
convention.
Oh, yeah,
center.
they do.
In the convention center. Can't remember what day that is, but we could also maybe possibly even think about helping them with a sign. I don't know if you have a sign.
We'd love to.
Okay, something in the scenic corridor temporarily,
Yeah.
something like that. So if
I
you're.
would love for y'all to come out and judge the food. We'll be searching for locals to do the judging.
Okay.
I just wanted to just, I know Miss Lucio, I know the journey that she's been on with Sulema, and just know that breast cancer, it affects so many women. It's taken so many women. So not only do I think that, it would promote tourism and, Airbnbs and them linking the Airbnb links and encouraging people to stay. And I even liked, them getting the produce locally from local, vendors if it's available. But, it's also a time for healing, amongst the women and their partners or whoever goes out with them. Like you said, it was an all-female.
Yes, it's all female cook-off. The husbands or the spouses, the only thing they can do is light the fire. They cannot, once the fire is lit, they cannot touch the pit. And normally in the barbecue world, it's an all men's really competition sport, very expensive competition sport. And it's usually all guys. So that's why I say it's a big deal that it's the first female. We only had one female in the top 10 on the IBCA sanction. There was only one female in the top 25 of all cookers in the state of Texas.
I think it's a very worthy and noble cause.
Yes.
And I'm glad you're doing it.
Thank you.
Jared, do you want to weigh in on this?
I think that I don't think I have anything too much more to add to the discussion. I like the event itself is a worthy event, to be sure. And as long as we are able to craft this support in a way that meets our statutory requirements and under the use of those funds, then I'm supportive of it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So would we as a city be able to promote this on our page with links to the Airbnbs
Sure.
as well?
I think we can.
We should be able to.
Yeah.
So we should be able
I don't
to
know.
do this as a city and also do the links to the Airbnbs,
Well, it'd probably be,
We've got other businesses on there.
right,
We
but, we might want to list the different you know, the Airbnbs, the VB and whatever, they're all different types of, you know, Airbnb type, you know, websites
Gotcha.
that we can list. Yes, we're not gonna get everybody in, you know, because
Yeah.
there's people in the ETJ. We could probably get most people that have Airbnbs as short-term rentals in the city. But if somebody, you know,
Do we
is gonna look
promote-
at it, I think we should just put in the different websites and say, search for Martindale, Texas.
Gotcha. Okay.
Do we promote
Well-
everyone, or do we promote only the ones that are actually paying the tax? Through the
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think we need to.
That's a really good question. But I agree with a link to search the area. But at the same time, you know, this money is generated by, quite frankly, less than a handful of participants that own and operate bed and breakfasts who have been paying this tax. So I would very much like to see their links being specific to drive to them, to those particular B&Bs. One last question is this just making sure that I understand, is this going to be basically sponsored by the city of Martindale? Is that how it's going to be listed in the promotional materials?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Is that
Well,
how?
maybe it should be, we're not really sponsoring it. Y'all are really, the Breast Cancer
Yeah.
Association is sponsoring it,
Sponsoring.
but we're supporting it.
We're just supporting
I
it,
guess.
yeah.
How could you say
Well, we-
that?
We could either do that, or where we put the location, we could put sponsored by City of Martindale for Highway 80 feed farm.
Because I think, you know, what I understood, what you said was that because whenever y'all had the event previously, they did not charge you. But
Right.
now they are charging you because they need to pay their workers for the influx of people that are attending. So the money that you would be getting would be going directly back to Highway 80.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Which comes back around.
And another question is, where in the budget do we get this money from?
The hotel motel.
The hotel
that's-
motel tax.
For some reason, I'm thinking, oh, we're working on budgets. Where's this gonna come from? But
Okay.
yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to award the $1,500 from the hotel motel tax to HCCO Association to offset costs with their annual cook-off for Breast Cancer Month.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
Can I have discussion, please?
yes.
Could it also include in the motion to offset any permitting fees?
I was gonna say that too. I'd also like to.
It's written in their letter. The venue, the entertainment, and permits are written in the letter. So,
Okay,
you know,
thank
to me, that's just, yes, ma'am.
I wonder if
Okay,
we
is
could
there
also
any
get them
more?
a better cost. Porta potties. Something we're going to discuss at another time.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Okay, if there is no more discussion, everyone in favor of supporting HCCO, please say aye.
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 Okay, the motion carries. Okay, we're gonna go on to the next item, which is to consider a temporary park maintenance agreement consisting of 10 weeks and the city to provide materials and equipment. And I'm gonna let Sam speak to that.
Okay, thank you. We have a great person on our staff here, Tommy Futch, that does the mowing at Allen Bates Park and Phase 1 and other areas of the city. The amount of work he does is good, but it's only limited to the mowing. Occasionally, he might do some weed whacking, say around the picnic tables, around the rocks at Allen Bates Park. I also want to thank the volunteers with the Parks Advisory Committee that in the past few years has done a great amount of work at the park. I also have done a lot of work in the park these past few weeks. There was an item on Facebook recently about a sign at Fannin Street that was blocked with foliage. The sign that shows where there's a crosswalk and where people can cross the street there. It was blocked with foliage. I cut all that foliage out myself so that sign is also visible. I also cleared the hillsides of Johnson grass going down towards the park. Towards the water from Allen Bates Park. It was almost impassable. There was so much vegetation. Also, the passageway going down to the park had turned into a gully, a ravine of sorts, where it was very difficult to even walk down to the river. I filled up maybe 15 5-gallon buckets of gravel and made that passageway easier to walk on going down to the park. Also, there's a memorial in Allen Bates Park for the Jen Fran couple that passed away in the flood at Christmas. There's a couple of crepe myrtles and some rocks there. I cleaned all those things. These are things that I do. I also empty the garbage cans that are full repeatedly on the weekend on Saturday. Also at Phase 1, we have a rolling garbage can there that's repeatedly full. These are kinds of things that I do that I feel I love to do, but I feel like I am no longer there all the time and can do this. So upon speaking with the mayor, we came up with an idea of someone of high school age that is available during the summer to work for the 10 weeks of the remaining fiscal year, being 2 weeks in July, 4 weeks in August, and 4 weeks in September at a rate of $15 an hour times 1 day a week would be $120 per week. And for 10 weeks, that would be $1,200. This person, if we choose him, could empty the garbage cans in Phase 1. He could weed whack around Phase 1 and around Allen Bates Park, the weeds that are obstructing rocks, pathways, and all that. So my initial asking would be for 10 weeks at $120 would be $1,200 out of the park budget. I also went to McCoy's and looked up a still weed eater that's $259, and the string and the gas mix that we need in order to work that weed eater is also included in the $300 estimate that I would like to include for materials for this labor. So it's going to be a total of $1,500 to provide maintenance for the remaining 10 weeks of the fiscal year. I've also gone over the budget and the remaining amount of monies that I have left in the budget. So this $1,500 will work nicely in the remaining $7,000 that we have left in the budget. Are there any questions?
And you said that it was $15 an hour, how many hours a week?
8 hours a week, one day a week. This person would work.
Do you have this written down somewhere that we can, I mean, you rattled off a lot of information, which was good, but I'm just looking for a reference.
Well, I don't have anything on paper that's presented, but basically the labor, as I mentioned, is $120 a week. For 10 weeks would be $1,200, and then $300 for the weed eater, because we have no equipment in our park system. We have no weed eaters, no hoses, no tools, nothing. And I think it's about time that we started to acquire some equipment in order to facilitate the maintenance of our parks. So I can present something on paper, but basically it's about $1,500, excluding gasoline costs that are needed to make the weed eater function. So that could be, say, 10 gallons of gas at $2.80 a gallon. That could be an additional $28 perhaps.
Yeah, but you don't need our approval for just to buy gas.
No.
No,
So Now, is this gonna include tax and everything? I mean, do you have enough adding there for any kind of tax or whatever that you gotta take out for the weed eater?
All of the items that are purchased at McCoy's through the city are non-taxable. So the invoice that I have here, which I have a paper copy of, is $301 for the weed eater, the string, and the mix for the gasoline. It comes to $301.48 with no tax. And I really think that seeing the amount of garbage that is produced, especially on a Saturday at Allen Bates Park, that we really need someone other than Ruben. Our janitor comes on Mondays, but basically what he does is he pulls the 2 bags out of the garbage cans and rolls the garbage cans to the street at a cost of $20, I think. So we're paying him $40 a month to do that. So besides the mowing, those are the only expenses we have so far. So it would be a high school student on an honor system, I guess, but I will also monitor, if needed, his work, and I could also train him to get this started. So I wanted to get this started by July 15th. We really need some help in our parks. If any of you have been down to phase 1, it looks good, but it looks very rutted. The roads are all rutted and messy. Tommy has tried to keep up with the mowing, but there is weeds everywhere
May I
that need to be
interject,
knocked down.
please? And
Yes.
just so
Yeah,
that way
I have
we
a
can
question
on the
too.
topic. So what I would like to see just as a council member and what would help me is like, number one, the equipment that the person would need to use. So the itemized list of the equipment and,
Here's the list.
but, so it's just a weed eater only that they would need?
Yes.
Weed eater and labor.
Okay, and then,
maintain.
so another thing that concerns me is that I don't have anything against a high school student, having employment. But my thing is always with employment is like injury. What if something were to happen with this student getting injured? Are they going to sign a voucher for the city? I mean, like what's going to happen there? And also I think like what would have helped me is like a job description of prioritized area in which the person would be working, or would it just be kind of scattered upon what you deem is necessary at that time?
We have constructed a liability release form, which our attorney spent a great amount of time on. I would see no problem with this person signing a liability.
It would have to be the parent.
Huh? Oh, he's 16. He can't sign. Okay.
You need to see it.
Well,
They just need to be covered by workers' comp.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Uh-huh.
And
Say that again,
you also have to
please.
consider the other payroll expenses, payroll taxes, social security, Medicare,
Yeah.
those things.
So they're
Not a
gonna
lot.
Here's my,
be an employee.
It's a
here's
contract
my question
for this.
is this person going to be 1099? Is this person going to be a 1099, or are they going to be an actual employee? If they're 1099 and they get paid $120 just straight away on a weekly basis, then we don't have to deal with that tax. And that also takes the onus of any liability off of the city. All it means is that they are, that they're using one piece of our equipment. And then the other question that I have is, I'm assuming that this person, whomever it is, will be paid on a weekly basis, or it'll go through our accountant, Mr. Anderson, and will be paid that $120 on a weekly basis. Is that how you're proposing it?
Our accountant was going to respond to that.
I don't think a 16-year-old
Okay.
can sign a contract to be
No,
a
they can't.
contract employee. I mean, a contract worker. They'd have to be an employee. And there's limits on dangerous equipment. I don't know that a weed eater is considered dangerous, but like in a restaurant, they can't operate a meat cutter, or there's certain limitations on a person under 18. I would think a weed eater would be
Right.
fine, but I wouldn't put them on a tractor or, anything, power related out there.
Not on a mower then?
I don't think I mean, maybe a push mower, but I don't think you want them on a riding mower. Not a,
He's already doing that.
He's already mowing Gargiola Park, twice a week on a
Voluntarily.
volunteer basis.
So, but there's a way we can get him on workman's comp, but we'll have to have him
you just have to
a
turn in
temporary
time sheet.
employee
Yeah,
or something.
turn in a time sheet with everyone else.
Okay.
He's got to, I've got to get a 9-9
What?
from
Say
him.
that again, Dwayne.
He's
What did
just
you
got
say,
to,
Dwayne?
got to go through an onboarding process and be cleared
Agreed.
as a legal worker and
Yes.
all that.
So to me, what I'm hearing is that this position is being tailored for somebody that's currently cutting the grass at the park. So it wouldn't be open to anybody.
It didn't start out that way. When they started, they've been talking about having somebody come collect garbage for a long time. And now it turned into a more serious discussion. And then somebody has come along that they would like to apply for that job.
So we would open it up to whoever wanted to apply.
Basically, we're creating a new position
Uh-huh.
that would be funded out of the parks budget,
And we could try it
which is
out this
fine. We just
summer
have to do it.
and
I'm sorry.
see how it works for the city. It might be that,
Yeah, it might be something that will grow into something that the park needs, which I
Yeah.
think they do.
because
Yeah.
right now we only have volunteer labor to clean up the garbage and the debris all the time. We don't have, this way we would have somebody that could be held responsible for getting the garbage out to the street and picking
Sure.
up garbage around the park and
So
also.
I agree with the statements that Sonia brought up. I believe we need to have basically a job description, because if we are doing exactly what it appears to be, is that we're creating a position within the city that will be paid through payroll, specifically for parks and picking up trash around the city, then there needs to be a job description for that person, because it may not be that person forever, whomever that is.
Well, that's true.
Because it may reopen.
I have no problem with working with the Parks Advisory Committee. We have a meeting scheduled next Tuesday, and we could write a job description up on Tuesday, and then hopefully that person can come in, speak with the city accountant or the mayor, and then try to get him started by the 15th of the month. This is something that's urgent. This is something that needs to be done to make our parks look better and to not have overflowing garbage cans and have
I
chicken
agree.
bone, watermelon, and garbage all over the parks, which I've been picking up the last few weeks. I don't know if any of you see the park on the weekend, but it is a real mess, and it's particularly a mess in phase one, as well as Alvin Bates Park. And I want to get this done to take pride in our parks and to get a high school person to really help us.
Sam, and I hear the urgency, and I know the passion that you have for the parks, and I totally am for this position. But I think that whenever we take into consideration, everything that's also gone on. We're leaving a teenager there. There has been assault there. There's intoxicated people that have been there. There has been a knife drawn on somebody. There has been, some things that have happened. I mean, so when we need to take a look at the big picture of everything, of the city, of the safety, of creating a position that could have longevity with the city, since it is something that we desperately need. But we need to do this in a manner in which it's going to set us up in the future to do it the right way, rather than just doing it haphazardly.
Well, we have
This
to
is a
start
temporary position.
somewhere. This is a temporary position. I can write the job description up. The incidences that you've mentioned at the park have been few and far between. If you would look at the police blotter for the last few months, there has been no incidences other than that one incident in Allen Bates Park several months ago, but there have been no incidences of anything that I can remember of anything happening in the parks that seems detrimental to our maintenance staff.
So you're talking about an hour and a half each day, going and picking up garbage and just
Well-
making things look
Or is it
nice.
mostly on the weekend?
It's one day a week. However, that person spreads it out over the week during the summer is up to them, but I will include that in the job description.
Yes.
If I may, who's providing supervision of this employee?
Sam is.
Parks,
I am, or
And is
other
that something that a city council person should be doing?
I recommend it wouldn't be.
Would or would
So,
not?
I would not. So I'm all for, we can hire somebody to pick up trash and those things. Oftentimes when you are not using the full capacity of equipment, I know a little weed string trimmer isn't all that expensive. We start looking at buying tractors and mowers and things. So we don't have to be of a commercial grade. Typically, you can get better economies of scale by contracting that service out to people who have already taken on that capital expense and not paying for that purchase, maintenance, repair of that equipment. And then also those costs and personnel, sometimes it might be a little bit more on contracting fees, but if you scope it right, you could get a firm fixed price contract to handle the same issue. So I think, the concern I have is supervision, especially of a high school student. We need somebody on staff that would be able to do it. Not being frankly honest, I would not have that capacity to do it. We only have really one full-time administrative personnel in the office and our city clerk, and she's overtaxed as it is. I think if we are going to do something like this, I would recommend doing it as a contract.
I agree.
It would take much more time in order to, as you say, contract out to a landscape maintenance firm to come up with the RFP or the RFQ. It would be much more costly than the amount that I'm presenting. The $300 for equipment is very minimal. We're only talking about purchasing one weed eater, and that could be something that could be in the eventual storage shed that the park would have, but we're not even talking about a huge amount of expense for equipment. I can perhaps get someone on the Parks Advisory Committee to monitor him, but from what I've seen from the work that he has currently already done in Guardiola Park, that the mowing that I've seen him do with his mower that he has been top notch and looks great. I'm only thinking of something that on a temporary basis that would give us time to write out an appropriate job description by the 15th of the month, and to really constructively start to think on the long term of how are we going to maintain our parks.
So maybe this is a different option. Is
Well, I was
paying,
going to say, I've got an idea.
it sounds like the scope of work that's needed is really just picking up trash. And doing that, 2 hours a day is a little easier to manage. I don't know if there's 2 hours a day's worth of work every day. But having a task list and supervision to keep that person actively engaged for 8 hours a day would be difficult.
It's a 1 day a week, 1 8-hour day a week. We're talking about 1 day a week. And if anyone would like to go down to phase 1 and see how it looks with the weed whacking that needs to be done on all edges and surfaces of that park.
Councilmember Clinton, I want to also acknowledge, and I agree, the need for this service. However, it's critical not only because we are spending taxpayer money, but also to keep the city out of any type of liability. that it be done in the proper order in regarding onboarding. I do not agree that we need to hire this person as an employee. In my opinion, it needs this, whomever it is, whether they're 16 or not, it needs to be done in a contract labor type situation. If the person that you would like to see fill this position does not have a weed eater, then increase your $120 a week over 10 weeks to include the $300 weed eater, and then he's got the money to buy his own weed eater, and it belongs to him. He's the one who will service it and store it, along with putting gas and all of that sort of stuff in it. And that this is just a contract labor situation. So when you draw up your job description, or actually it would be not a job description, it would be scope of work for a contract labor person. It would be titled scope of work. Include that he'll be providing his own tools, and he'll do it. If you as a personal friend or personal acquaintance of this person would like to guide and direct him, I don't see how that would put the city in any kind of liability. That would not necessarily be, part of, it would not be listed in the scope of work that San Quentin would guide and direct the contractor. And so I think for liability purposes, that's what we need to do.
But I mean, we have our attorney right here. Could you please weigh in on what you think about having, from what I'm hearing, it's a teenager work 1 day a week, which would be getting a check from the city that the contract was, or this scope of work was, made specifically for him, and
teach him how to get a DBA.
I think Dwayne has accurately laid out the considerations for bringing on someone that is a minor. I think he's right.
Okay, so Kim,
I was gonna say,
He'll be under
it doesn't say that they can't drive a riding mower. They can't operate a chainsaw, a wood chipper, anything like.
Yeah, there's certain heavy equipment, and I don't have committed memory.
Hydraulic type things.
But you
They can't drive a motor vehicle.
He has a golf cart.
In other words, they can't drive our truck or whatever.
He has a golf cart, which he will use to go down to phase one and empty the garbage cans out. We've already discussed that.
so with the golf cart, does he have a driver's license to drive?
I haven't gone that far yet. Does everybody in town that has a golf cart, do you see children driving golf
I
carts in
mean,
town all the time?
I'm not,
But he's there gonna be.
I'm not in their household, but we're talking about a city position that we're being reliable for, so I don't think there's anything that's funny about that.
Councilman Villalobos, I guess the point that I would make is, I stay out of, my job is whether or not the sausage can legally be made, not how it's made.
Gotcha.
And
Right.
and I mean, I can tell you that I see a path to where this can happen. You guys simply need to make the decision. If you, weighing all of the costs and benefits, believe that it's a good idea for the city, a wise expenditure of funds. If you want to, at least like you said, if you want to structure this where you require someone to have certain equipment to do the job, if the city wants to acquire particular equipment, if there's considerations about hiring someone who has not reached the age of majority at this point, again, all practical considerations to take into consideration when making this decision. But can the city technically hire someone who is a minor to do certain things? And the answer is yes. Minors can work. I mean.
Yeah, Chief Jurgen's 16-year-old daughter works at the feed barn.
I know, but my only concern is, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to lay it all out there, is that when we have a council member that has a job catered for somebody specifically, whenever they're openly stating that they're driving a golf cart while they're going to be conducting city business, do not know if they have a driver's license, laugh at the reason if I'm asking about it. I have a problem with that.
I mean, that's a really good legitimate question. I think that,
I hadn't asked him that yet. I
Yeah, well,
hadn't
those
gotten
are,
that far
those are
yet.
kind of important things.
I think the bottom line is we need garbage emptied, picked up, emptied, and that's what Sam's concerned about. It doesn't have to be this particular person. It was just suggested that maybe he could apply for the job. It could be, I mean, we could open it up, we could advertise, whatever the council
If the-
decides. But what
If the money is in,
for is to hire somebody for 10 weeks, 2 hours a day, isn't it? Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
8
and
hours a
Monday.
week.
Well,
Just
however
8
he
hours
works,
a week,
works
Yes,
it
8
out
hours
during
a
the
week.
week.
especially the weekends are bad for the garbage, and we just want to get the garbage picked up. And instead
And
of
so
just
he-
relying on volunteers.
if,
So that,
if I may just brief,
yes, Lisa?
may I? Thank you. Just to reiterate what I said before, as a 16-year-old, you can be a sole proprietor. You can go and get a DBA. Whether he gets a DBA or he just is a sole proprietor is not the problem. If the money is in the fund, in the budget, in the parks budget in order to pay for this, then he needs to be a contract laborer. Just for clarification, the difference between an employee and someone who receives a 1099 at the beginning of the following year, an employee is told when to work, and you provide the materials and what it is supposed to be done. If they're contract labor, we don't dictate when the work gets done. Obviously, if the work is needed more on the weekends, then that would be the logical time to do it. But I'll just say it again, this needs to be a 1099, a contract labor situation, not a position particularly that is created within the city, but there is a need. The money is in the budget to pay for the service to fulfill the need. And so that's how I feel like we should move forward, not as an employee.
Not as an employee, I agree.
No,
And
yeah.
that would fulfill the need of the parks,
Mhm.
that you need to have somebody reliable to go and pick up garbage at the parks and get that taken care of. Make sure the cans are out to the street on garbage pickup day. And so that's what you're really after, right?
If, as Lisa suggested, if we can add into the wage amount to have them have a slightly increased wage in order to have the money to purchase their own weed eater, which they would then have as their own equipment, then I would think that perhaps would be.
I still don't understand.
Have
why
this
don't-
have this
I
have
think
this
the
young man
parks-
write a proposal. Have this young man write a proposal. Yes.
What's wrong with the parks getting a weed eater? What
Well,
if volunteers want to go out there and use that weed eater?
well, that's true, but I also see what Lisa's saying. It'd be like when we're hiring Tommy Fudge, he has all of his own equipment. We tell him, hey, we want this and this and this and this done. He goes out and does it.
So in other words, you're saying let's deduct out of his paycheck the $300.
No, I'm saying give it as listen guys, here's the way you do it. You have him write a proposal for the $120 a week, and that would include a $300 advance, which would be for him to go and buy this weed eater that's already been looked at,
The parks.
and
need to
then
get-
paying the $120.
I don't know.
We're not in the maintenance business. Where's it going to be stored? What building is the gas cans going to be stored in? Until we have a full-on like shed or whatever it is that we have talked about in the past for that kind of stuff, that it needs to be somebody's personal equipment, because we're going to spend $300 for it. It's a gasoline-powered weed eater. How many of you have had a gasoline-powered weed eater that you've had to put in the repair shop?
Is it a gasoline powered?
I mean, yeah, that's what he said.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the money is there so that this person or whomever can purchase a weed eater so they can do the job by the 15th as you are proposing, then just include the $300 for it to be purchased, which means he goes and buys it. And as part of the 10-week scope of work.
Okay,
And then we're
And
not
then he
liable,
would-
we're not in the maintenance program.
And then he would keep the weed eater himself?
Yeah, it's his. Absolutely, it's his, and he can do with it as he so chooses.
you'll take better
But
care of.
when we get to week number 7 and the weed eater is broken down, he doesn't come back to us and say, I need $150 to fix the weed eater. As a sole proprietor and or a contract labor, he gets his own weed eater fixed.
Okay, the chair recognizes Dwayne.
And don't forget, this contractor cannot be this 15 or 16-year-old, cannot sign a contract.
Their parent has to give them permission, correct?
Yes, you hire their parent. I don't know.
Actually, you can. It could be done through the parent, and the parent tells the kid to do it. That I don't, unless Kent tells me otherwise. When it comes to labor laws, I don't think that's a problem.
So we decide to do it or not.
So essentially what the city would be doing is it would be, again, hypothetically walking through this, contracting with the young man's parents and fronting $300 on the hopes that one and listen, he might be a great, reliable young man. I don't know the kid. He could do a phenomenal job.
It may not necessarily be him. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess here, my starting point, if I were asked my opinion on how to do this, we would put out a request for quotes on doing some very basic things at the park. And that would be a little bit of weed eating, a bit of trash.
But it's defeating the purpose of this, the reason why we're doing it.
That's gonna take weeks to
We're
put
gonna
that
have,
out.
we need something now.
We either do it or don't do it.
And maybe we
I
can
get it.
use, this will be a starter contract that we can do every summer.
Listen, I get it.
It's worth less some money.
It is a practical opinion. I'm just, I can take a look at a proposed contract and see what it looks like. And the question is, can it be done? The answer is yes. The prudence of that decision is left to the other minds at this table. And I do my best to not venture into that.
I'd like to work on a motion. I make a motion that we hire someone via contract who is also gets workman's comp from the city for basic park and trash maintenance for 8 hours a week for 10 weeks, including a $300 bonus advance for equipment purchase.
I don't think we can do workman's comp if they're not an employee.
Yeah, you can.
You can, okay.
He said that we need to.
Yeah, you can.
And how
you
much
can
is workman's comp?
Workers' comp. Actually, they're automatically covered unless you exempt them.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
So as long as they get the right paperwork filled out, then they're covered under workman's comp.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Blaine, so we can cover contractors under our own workman's comp program?
Yeah. Actually, the policies are written to where contractors are supposed to be covered unless they provide evidence of their own coverage.
Okay, thanks.
And
I didn't work on
how much is that gonna cost the city?
Workers' comp is not expensive in Texas. 1 or 2% of what we pay them. I mean, so
That's pretty
a
low.
dollar or two, or whatever on this $1,200, $10 or $20.
Do I
Every
need
time
to
we,
say- I ought to say at $15 an hour. 8 hours a week
And by the way,
at $15.
contracts are not-
no,
Oh,
contract
No,
workers are
it's-
not By the hour, they're supposed to be.
by the
by the
That's
contract,
right.
job.
by the job.
By
Okay.
the job.
it's
So-
120 a week.
Yeah.
But
then-
no, just make it a total of, how much was it?
1,200.
$1,200 contract.
Excuse me, Ms. Bunker?
Yes.
Yes. Can you please?
Paid
repeat-
at 120 a week, correct? Paid at 120 a week, not in a $1,200 lump sum.
Okay, right.
Say that again?
She said not
I
in a
said,
12.
Yeah, to be paid at 120 per week, which also, Sam, please let it be known that in that situation, he needs to invoice. He needs to put in an invoice for the 120 per week to be
We
paid
keep saying-
weekly instead of,
Yeah,
It could be a girl.
this person, this contractor. Okay. So
I'm just letting
now-
it be known.
all
Well,
right,
I
we
have
could
someone-
say we could do the contract at no more than $1,200 for the 10 weeks.
Mhm.
Limited to $1,200, because we have to approve the $1,200
And the 300 advance.
plus the 300 things.
And then I think
15.
you should say some kind of stipulation, payable semi-monthly or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they
Payable
don't
weekly.
expect to
Usually
be
a
paid.
contractor invoices you for progress, you know. I realize this is, it's like you don't want to pay him $1,200
Dwayne,
for weeks.
Yeah, let's make it $1,600.
Dwayne, do you feel like we have covered all the bases?
Yeah.
Do you feel like this motion covers all the bases?
I'm gonna repeat it too.
Yeah, I think it did. I just,
Okay,
I think the guaranteed maximum is good. You know, the fact that we're providing the equipment that they use in an end-around manner is a little, kind of crosses the line, but they have the
Yeah.
ability to go, they don't necessarily have to go buy this weed eater if they can borrow dad's. You know,
True.
it's like you're giving them $300 to provide their own equipment.
We'll
And-
make the contract up to $1,500, which will cover it. Okay, I'll try to repeat this.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys, my brain is fried up for the last 5 days.
Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to think if this is an impermissible gift.
Well, if you just make the contract $1,500 and tell them to get the work done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
that's-
You're raising their fee, basically.
the problem is we've already created a public record where it was saying, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're gonna buy this kid a weed eater so we can make some money off the city. Which brings me to the point where I think that becomes an impermissible gift of public funds.
Mhm.
We would then essentially be, there are gifts that can be made. If there's some legitimate public purpose. But I think you gotta say, we have, you know, whatever the value.
Is it a gift or just advancing him?
Right.
Well, I guess it is.
It is a gift.
Like a draw, like a contractor.
Well, it's
Right,
not
right.
drawn.
Let's
So,
forget
so what
about
if we did this? So I know small businesses often need contract financing. I know in the federal government, it's done with small businesses, startups and the rest. On firm fixed price contracts where they can get financing under the terms of that contract. And rarely is it done because the government is taking a risk in case of default, right? But if under that contract, you could recoup those costs or that advance if there was ever termination for default under the terms of that contract. I don't think it would be a gift in that sense if it's them just ask
I think it's out of the question.
for some contract finance.
We.
Or I mean, in the basic sense, if we have a relationship with this person and they win the contract, well, they can go down to Lockhart Bank or whatever bank and say, hey, I have this contract to fulfill these terms. Can I get a small unsecured loan to go purchase this equipment? And any bank, when you have a signed contract with the city, it's likely going to say, all right, here you go.
I mean, like, this is kind of already, we've been talking about something way too long
Yes.
without even like proper documentation or paperwork. We're trying to make up a motion on the fly to cover all aspects to make sure that the city does. And then also what we're discussing here sets a precedence of how we are going to treat our other committees. So if the river committee wanted a boat and came to the city and said they wanted a boat to take out the trash, then are we going to do the same thing for other committees that want to hire somebody to help them clean up trash and do the same thing?
It has nothing to do with the committee. I'm only advising in my capacity and in my experience
I'm
that
just
I
saying
have.
that
No,
we have to do
it
that
has
across
nothing
the
to do
board.
with the committee. It's the city, me advising the city about this need.
Earlier, you had said you would go to the committee. I'm just repeating what you said, what you would do.
I would go to the committee to write a job description. That's what I said, is that I would go to the committee because we're meeting next week to write up a job description.
This
That's
has
all.
already been way too much.
Well, we need to discuss this. We have no maintenance staff and we have a park that is going
Has
into the
anybody
summer.
asked Tommy Butch to pick up extra shifts for picking up trash?
He mows at a rate of $100 per acre.
Has
That's what
anybody
he
asked
does.
him to pick up trash?
No. I don't think so.
Has anybody asked Reuben Brooks to increase his trash pickup?
I thought he was doing.
He does it for $20 a week or whatever it is.
Or like expanded and got with Caldwell County Probation to incorporate people that needed to do community service hours, to come out here and do it as a community service.
How long is that going to take to figure that out? That's going to take weeks. We
I
need
can help you
somebody.
with it. I can reach out to probation.
We need somebody tomorrow to start this. We need somebody next week. If any of you have seen the condition of the park that I've been covering as a volunteer, and to see the amount of garbage that is created by the public that visits the park, I'll take any of you down to phase 1 to see how overgrown the Johnson grass is, okay? We need someone immediately on a temporary basis. And
But this is also already causing too many problems, and I bet you anything, it's not gonna get passed. So what I'm gonna suggest also, I can rescind this motion,
Rescind.
and I say, see if you can pay Tommy Butchell, the guy that already does maintenance, and Reuben for the next 10 weeks out of the Parks Fund, so that you're not stuck doing this.
we almost had the motion figured out. We said that you could have someone on a contract
I
basis.
can repeat the motion.
We almost had it figured out upon talking to him.
Uh-huh.
It's a minimal amount. I have the amount left in the budget, and I want someone as soon as possible.
But that's not how we conduct business as a city, as city council members, and setting a precedent that's on record, on video for the community to see,
Agreed.
for our constituents to see. That's how we don't conduct business like that. And the whole time that I've ever been on city council, I've never been in a meeting where somebody says, we need it tomorrow, without any documentation, without any paperwork, without anything in front of us. Never have I sat through a meeting and had that done.
I
If
agree.
you go down to the park, you'll see the need.
I
The
know.
need is extreme.
The need is
So
there.
let's hire a contractor.
And how
What
many
did you
weeks
say?
will that
Let's
take?
hire a contractor.
And how many weeks will that take?
Can you get a
We've got
contractor?
two already on, Tommy and Ruben, who already do part of this.
And then you'll do that tomorrow until we figure out how to get this documented properly and with some paperwork? So tomorrow you could get him to do
We
it?
can talk to him and
Perfect.
see if that's something that he would be willing to do.
Yeah,
And if he can't do the trash, have Ruben,
Yeah.
ask Ruben.
mhm,
I could ask Ruben.
perfect. For $15 an hour on the days that he comes to clean the office, if he could either come earlier or later and to pick up the trash.
Let's do that temporarily and let's come up with a contract. I'll help you with it, Sam.
Okay.
It's gotta be a set rate, not an hourly rate.
Okay, so that motion's been rescinded. Okay, I almost hate to move on to the next item. We need to consider the water meter at Gargiola Park. And this is now open for discussion.
I think we've discussed about this before.
Yes, we have.
Mhm.
Full, $1,150.
So right now, the Jimenez family is mowing Gargiola Park for free. And they are providing the water whenever water is needed. We've been very fortunate this year because we've had so much rain. So there hasn't had to be that much watering. But of water, yeah, and it used to be that Sean McDonald provided water. We'd have to string a hose from his house across. So we have a park system where we don't have the means to take care of the park, is part of the problem. So the Parks Department is asking to put in a water meter to water Gargiola Park. This does not include the other parks. This is just Gargiola Park.
And this is just to approve the funds that the river, that the river committee can use to have that.
The Parks
It's
Department,
coming out of the river, the. river
Parks.
fund. I mean,
Parks,
the parks fund.
Mhm.
Ah,
Mm.
yes.
been a long day.
So they are asking for the water meter.
So I'll just start off and then I just know that we've been asking for a master plan.
Guardiola Park was never included in the thoughts of a master plan. Guardiola Park only came to the forefront when the city wanted to turn it into a parking lot. The master plan that has been requested and asked for the Parks Advisory Committee has been phase 1, 2, and 3 of the FEMA acquired properties. Guardiola Park was never, ever, ever considered to be a part of the master plan. Pat Wilkins took care of Guardiola Park out of her own budget, her own money for over 10 years. She transported water in kitty litter buckets and paid for the guy to trim the trees. She purchased all the shrubs. And so I don't want to get muddled up and confused with talking about Guardiola Park being a part of the master plan. Guardiola Park is an established
A
part
plan. Do you have
of
a
the
plan?
master plan.
A plan.
So,
The
so
plan
I'm
is
gonna
to
jump in
go
and ask for a correction. I'm gonna jump in and ask for a correction. If Guardiola Park is a park owned and maintained by the city, it needs to be in the master plan. It was never in my understanding that it would not be. If a master plan is going to be presented, Guardiola Park needs to be part of it.
Yes.
Okay,
And
well,
it's gonna
let's,
take some time before we have a master plan. And we now have a plan to start creating a master plan. Because we have Adrian that's gonna start working on that. But in the meantime, it's the summertime and we need to water the plant.
And it's summertime too, and we have kids at the park that need a water fountain.
we're not even talking about a water fountain now, but if we have the water there, at least we can do it. But the problematic situation with a water fountain is that it needs to be ADA compliant. And that's gonna cost several $1,000s. I'm talking about getting the water meter at Guardiola Park at a greatly reduced rate, which is normally about $4,300, normally what the Martindale Water Supply charges. But because the Guardiola family already had a water meter in place there, the Martindale Water Supply is giving us a great price of $1,150. If that water meter is in place, we can water the park. We can start to have a park that will provide live trees and live plants for people to enjoy. And so that's why I would like to have a water meter at Guardiola Park. We have $7,000 left in the budget. My maintenance plan has just been struck down, so we even have more money.
And we've talked about this before, it's just, and the Parks Committee has done research on this. They haven't finished the research on a water fountain. They want to put that in with the master plan. This is something that all we want to do is approve it.
So it would, I know, but when we have to answer to our constituents, like, and just saying, here are the plants X, Y, Z that need water. These are the plants that died in the freeze, X, Y, Z. These are the trees right now that could be part of an educational program, X, Y, Z.
Our constituents would like us to do this, then don't vote for it.
Got you, but I'm just making it known, like, even me as a council member, I would like to know those things as well.
We've got
So
$7,000 in the parks budget that we have to spend by when? September
30th.
So, we can sit here and talk about this every day until when, until winter.
Until the shrubs are
Until
dead.
winter, and then.
Yeah, until all the trees and shrubs are
Okay.
dead. We
That's all right.
we can still talk about it some more.
And guys, we've got a budget workshop, so if we can move it along.
We have a budget workshop.
All right.
Yes, we do.
Can you guys hear me?
I'm gonna make a motion that we,
Just a minute.
Is that Kent?
$150
Kent, is that you?
for a
That's fine.
water meter in Guardiola Park.
1,100.
I second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion.
That was McLean?
Thank you,
I
Mike.
second that motion. Thank
We
you.
have a
Hear me?
motion and a second.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to vote as a group or individually?
I have discussion that I would like to ask real quick. Yes, just a little bit more.
Okay,
So the money that was turned in as a deposit over there, where is the money that was turned in as a deposit?
It's
That was a
still-
donation.
it's still on record. It'll pay for 2 to 3 months of water.
3 months of water at
3 months.
$50 a month. The $151 that we collected, the cash, the check is still sitting in the little tin box at Martindale Water Supply. As soon as we vote for the meter, then the $151 that was collected by donations will apply to the 3 months, the first 3 months of the water bill at Guardiola Park.
And the check is a personal check or a city check?
It's a personal check of money that I collected from the Friends of the Park and the Parks Advisory Committee. I received cash.
And then can we do that as if it's in his name, the check-in is his name, we're opening up a meter on behalf of the city, and then he wants to use his personal check that were collected from donations. Could that go ahead and be done on behalf of the city?
City is certainly able to take money. If someone wants to overpay their taxes or gratuitously give, they are allowed to.
Mhm. And then
How do you know that money wasn't donated to the water board?
he said he had the collections of the money. He took the donations of the money,
Right.
and it's personal check.
Okay,
That was
so
from
what does
previous
that mean?
meetings.
It's only, we're talking about this a lot. He just said it's fine.
Yeah.
And
that's
it's
all I
gonna
needed to
apply
get.
to 3 months of the water bill at Guardiola Park. The city will not have an expense to pay the water bill at Guardiola Park for 3 months because of the donations received.
Yes, Jared?
Yeah, so I might be mistaken, but does the water meter include the faucet, or do we also need to hire a plumber to plumb in a faucet system?
It's just
I
the
didn't even
meter.
think of that.
You have to.
We have to get a
tap
plumber
in.
also.
Is there a faucet there?
No. We might be able to do that on a volunteer basis, but I think installing a faucet once the meter is put in place would be very minimal. And that could even be taken out of the park budget as well.
So we're fine wherever that hookup is. We're just going to put a faucet right there. We're not going to trench it over to somewhere else on the property.
Well, generally, the first faucet that you install is probably within a 3 to 5 foot distance from the water meter. So it'll be in the front portion of the park. And we have about 150 feet of hose that the city has purchased 100 feet. And so I have a hose. And you'll just hook up the hose to the faucet and start watering.
And there also will be some type of locking apparatus on this spigot so that just anyone cannot hook up to it. That'll be an expense as well.
It'll be just like the one at Allen Bates Park that has a lock on the faucet, yes. That currently exists at the Allen Bates Park.
And then the monthly fee, that'll be a general fund utility expense then? Or are we just covering that out of the parks?
No, it's
I guess
taken
that
out
might be
of
for
the park.
Dwayne.
It would go on the parks line. There's already one meter I pay there at the other
Okay.
park.
Okay, sounds good.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, and are there any nays?
I am a nay, and I'm gonna say why.
Okay,
I'm gonna say no because of there's no documentation. There's not a quote for the plumbing that would need to be also accompanied with the faucet or for the work that's gonna be done. I can't vote yes based on the fact that there's no documentation.
We have received documentation for the installation of the meter from Martindale Water Supply. The faucet will be very minimal cost, and that will be taken out of the park budget. But this is a way to get some water to the park.
okay.
We're only talking about a faucet.
Okay, so we will now move on to future items. We have the
Motion
passes.
carries.
oh, the motion carried, I'm sorry, 4-1, the motion carried, sorry. Okay, the future items, fiscal year 2022 budget public hearing, which we're gonna have after we close this meeting. Rolling review of ordinances, ordinance chapter 155. Oh, that's already been done, June 7th. The nuisance
Clarification,
ordinance.
Mayor, if I may.
It's ongoing.
Tonight's discussion is not the public hearing on the budget.
Oh, okay.
There'll be a future item.
That's a future item, okay. Dilapidated houses, chapter 151, in ordinances, park ordinance. I know we were also working on a street ordinance. We had started that discussion.
Yep, we started a street discussion and we also discussed the officers and employees, chapter 31, I believe.
Officers and employees. And then tonight we were discussing that we may need an ordinance for the terms of office for the historic commission and the Parks Board and that, the advisory boards. Is there anything else we should add to future items?
Well, it sounds like we still need to talk about some kind of park contract. At least for summers in the future.
Or labor contract?
And we,
Park equipment.
and we also need to add to the agenda, future agenda items, something in regards to creating a future master plan, for lack of better words, for the hotel tax fund.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up, yes.
Yes,
Master
ma'am.
plan for hotel and motel tax. I thought that was a
And
really
also
good idea.
just for the record, I very, very much am willing to help with the offer that Craig stated tonight in regards to coming up with the marketing strategy. So I just want to let it be known that I will be offering my help to him as well.
Okay. Is there anything else we should add to future items?
No, I would just like to make a request that anytime we have something on the agenda, that we have the proper documentation along with the action item or discussion item as referring into quotes, as referring into descriptions of whatever we're talking to, that we have the accompanied paperwork pertaining to the item.
Agreed.
Even if it's a PowerPoint or something, that probably would have been helpful.
Yes.
And for the record, in years past, under previous administrations, if in fact, including myself, would come to a meeting without proper documentation, I would not be allowed to present. That item would be skipped during the meeting.
And to give Sam credit, he did come in and did discuss it with the mayor, and I came in and listened to it, and I didn't even
And I'm learning too.
suggest.
Well,
So
we-
Sure,
this is-
sure. I'm just letting it be known. That's all.
Okay. All right. So is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? We'll take a 5-minute break and then come back.
Is anybody else, I think we spent way too much time. I would like to table the budget meeting for another date and not go forward with it tonight because that meeting took entirely too long for the 2 items on the
I
agenda.
agree.
And I say that we just call another special meeting.
May I say that we first adjourn this meeting and then we have to open the other meeting and then you can
Make that motion.
make that
Make
motion.
that motion.
Okay, I make a motion and we adjourn the regular city council meeting.
I second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion
Aye.
is adjourned. It is 8:58.
I have bank signature cards. I need y'all to sign.
Oh, okay. All right, can we take a little bit of a break?
Yeah.
She just opens it and then we close it.
We close.
I'm gonna make them. Yeah.
Jared?
Yes.
If we don't have this budget workshop, how is this gonna affect our deadline?
Our deadline really starts later this month.
I was thinking we had to have this done by the 15th or something?
Yeah,
Or-
so if what we really, we need to be able to post our budget and tax rates for 30 days. And that, if we're trying to go for the first week of September, that puts us in the first week of August. And while we haven't received our tax rates yet, there's significant policy discussions, priorities to be ironed out regarding the reduction of $30,000 out of the court revenue and how that funding reduction is split. And then also we have the utility fund expenses and potential rate changes. So those things can wait for another meeting. It's just going to compound into a longer discussion possibly.
And I have a question. I have a question about the typically you would have or you have for our other budget work sessions, a PowerPoint or some type of outline that we were going through. Is that something that can be sent to us in advance, that we would be able to be a little bit more prepared as far as exactly what we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, I mean, tonight's discussion was really where does city council want to cut $30,000? So I just want to throw some numbers up, but based off our previous discussion, I have a lot of.
Yeah,
Let's
how
go
long
ahead
was
and
tonight's
take a-
meeting, do you think?
Probably an hour.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and take a break because we're dangerously talking about business. So we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll bring it to order. And then if we want to cancel it, we'll do it. Okay. So it's 9 o'clock right now. We'll reconvene at 9:05. Where's?
He's here.
I was wondering which phone, where's he at? Oh, okay. Oh, my goodness. I'm not gonna get in my 10,000 steps today.
1,000?
I always get in 10,000. I'm only at 6,500. I've
That
been sitting down all day.
is a lot of steps.
You got a lot of signatures you got to sign on these papers, so.
I think she already signed.
I did, yeah.
No, there's a lot of blanks by her name here.
Are there?
Yeah,
I have not scrubbed it down.
yeah, no, there's a lot.
Hello?
Sorry.
Council.
So I always have to sign my name that same way on the checks as I'm signing it here.
Yeah, you're supposed to.
Okay.
I don't know that they'll ever really check it.
So let's see, who needs to sign this? Jan. Jan would probably be the next one to sign. God, I put 6/7 instead of 7/7. I put June 7th instead of July 7th. It doesn't matter. I mean,
I can't imagine.
That's just a date that it's predated. I don't know. I just got my months confused, but it's fine.
It's late.
Yeah, I put 6/7. I'd have to change it and then initial it is all I do, right?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I put 6/7/2021, so I should probably change it to a 7 and just initial it, right?
Yes.
Cross it out and put a 7.
Well, Sam, we now know You gotta have it all written out, and there were questions I wouldn't have thought of. Because when I was 12 years old, I was babysitting 6 kids. I've
But you
always,
weren't doing it for the city.
I wasn't doing it for the city. I was doing it for the neighbors. I'm still amazed that I was hired to watch 6 little kids while this woman went to work.
Well, I mean, we can talk to Tommy and Ruben, but if we can come up with the contract, it does sound like it could still be possible if we write up a job description.
Yes.
Hey, can you mute the mic?
Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not running foul of open meetings because we have other council members on the Zoom call still.
Oh, so we're
On this side.
The green, oh, this one?
That worked. Thanks.
I think she wouldn't go out, but you're right, though, you don't want her going out, right? I think, huh? You're right. Let's keep it. There we go. It's landscape, good buddy.
If we've restarted the meeting, Adrian, can you take us off mute?
Okay, so,
Okay, I'm calling this budget meeting work session. It's 9:08. Okay, roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Villalobos.
Here.
Councilmember Clinton.
here.
Councilmember Bunker.
here,
Councilmember Shell Allen.
Here,
Councilmember Mike McLeod. Okay.
Is that right?
Okay, so the discussion is whether or not,
well, tell Mike he needs to unmute.
should I say?
Hey, Mike, you need to unmute.
No.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mike. Mike,
Simply
on
an
your
app.
phone, press *6.
okay, so this is a budget workshop and we are to review the second draft of the fiscal year 21-22 budget.
May I be recognized, Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to postpone the budget workshop for this evening. We had a long city council meeting and I would like to do this at another time.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion Jared, is there any reason why we could not cancel this meeting or put it on hold?
The only recommendation is that if we put this on hold, we probably want to schedule a follow-up for next week. That way we can be in better position to meet some of the other deadlines once the tax information comes in.
And it would be my request that it be on a Tuesday evening, not in the middle of a day on a work day.
Okay,
What about a weekend?
I had a Monday.
No, ma'am, on a Tuesday evening, city business on a Tuesday evening. It just means we've got 3 meetings in a row this month, which is perfectly fine.
okay, that would mean we would have 3 meetings.
I can do it Friday, if anybody's available Friday.
Have to look.
Friday night,
Friday during the day.
so
Well, I don't know if Jared has got another job.
Oh, that's right. He's, Mondays, he's here on Mondays, right?
I'm available in the evenings as well.
I will be, not here, do you, family funeral.
On Monday or Friday?
I'll be gone Monday and Friday.
Monday
Yeah,
and
Monday and Tuesday.
this coming Friday, the 10th, I am unavailable.
okay.
I propose July 13th at 6:30. Tuesday, July 13th at 6:30.
Earlier. Lisa, could we start earlier and you just come in when you could come in?
Of course, if we're only
How
doing
earlier?
Yes, we're only
How
gonna do
earlier?
5:30.
I have a Parks Advisory Committee meeting at 5:30 on the July 13th.
And that's here?
Yes.
Oh, but we can't do it on this Thursday, this Tuesday, because
Well,
It
they need
reduces
it
confusion.
6:30. We
Yeah.
can do that.
We'll do it to 6:30 Tuesday, right? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
If our meeting is only for an hour, I guess so.
It's kind of like big brother kicking little brother out of the game.
I guess I can start it at 5
There you go.
or not at all. Maybe
It's
I
gonna be
just
a
won't
busy
have
day
it at
for
all.
you.
Okay, so we have a motion to postpone this meeting,
Jan, you got an initial?
and we have a second. Do you want to amend your motion
Every page.
to meet at 6:30 next Tuesday on July 13th?
I would like to amend my motion as stated to postpone the budget workshop meeting due to a lengthy city council meeting, with the budget workshop meeting being on July 13th at 6:30 PM in downtown Martindale.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing no more discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 You have to
Okay,
initial every single page.
I have 4 votes to postpone the workshop. The motion carries. And I didn't hear Mike. Did he say?
No, I didn't hear him at all, so
No,
I'm trying, is he on there?
He's on there, but he didn't unmute himself.
Okay, so I would say,
Are you talking about Mike?
He
Mike,
never
if
made
you
the
can
roll
hear us,
call.
you need, I
Yeah,
know, because he's muted. He needs to press *6 on his phone to unmute himself. *6 on your phone, Mike.
but we've already, it carried. There's
saying.
4 votes for. Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at
It is 9:14.
9:14.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, second, yeah, I second.
Okay, all those in favor of
Aye.
adjourning, say aye.
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 Guys, thank you. Good night.
And